Real Conversations in the QC is sponsored by Accentra Credit Union.
Welcome to Real Conversations in the QC. I'm Kayla Page. Thank you for joining us. This month, we're exploring the theme of Black joy as resistance, highlighting how people of color continue to thrive and grow despite setbacks from some of the new administration's policies. Joshua Blount spoke with Kevin Gilmore, former military member and retired Rock Island Arsenal employee, about a possible merging of commands that could make a big impact on people at the Arsenal, even potentially putting jobs at risk.
I'm here with Kevin Gilmore, who is retired military and a retired Rock Island Arsenal employee. How are you doing today?
Fine yourself, sir.
I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. So let's just jump right into it. There's a lot going on right now in the world, and in the Quad Cities as well. So, according to the Rock Island County website, the U.S. Department of Defense is proposing a merger that will have a significant impact on the personnel at the Rock Island Arsenal. Can you just talk to me just about what's going on and walk me through the situation?
Well, as a retired Arsenal employee, just recently retired as well, we were going through that transition phase as well as what you're speaking of. So the concern with most of the employers or employees were, would it affect me and how? So the concern was downsizing. So, when the new administration came in, some things was sent to us to where, there was a work stoppage and we had to do other things to abide by certain rules that came down. So there is a concern, and it's still a major concern, because the concern is whether they will have a job or not. Or, well, will I have a job or not? Will I be cut? Will I be forced to retire? That right there is the major concern that's going on right now.
Okay. And then I understand it's a merger. So what merger is actually being proposed?
The merger that I've heard that is being proposed is to merge the Army Sustainment Command and the Joint Munitions Command as one. That is the proposed merger that's been talked about or spoke of.
Okay, and last you heard, that's still kind of in the works. It's nothing that has been set in stone or, been decided on just yet?
No, to my knowledge, it hasn't been decided to merge those two commands. But if it is decided, I can see where that would cause some issues. By being former military, those two commands deal in logistics and class level supplies, from class 1 to class 10. JMTC deals primarily with class 5, which is munition, and ASC deals with all the other classes. So the idea would be to have both those organizations under one umbrella.
Okay. Now, what is your role, or what was your role before you retired and you were with the Rock Island Arsenal? And, can you or anyone that be affected by this merger?
Well, prior to retiring, I worked for the Army Contracting Command. So some of my co-workers had friends and relatives that worked at JMC and ASC. So their concerns were, especially the newer employees, 1 year or 2 year employee. So their concern is, would they be let go because they don't have the time in service as like a 15-year employee or 20-year employee. So their concern is, would they be fired or let go?
Okay. And then my other question is, the merger would put 400 jobs at risk, according to the Rock Island County website. What help is being offered to you and others that will allow, you to continue to take care of your families?
Well, if I was a member of JMC or ASC, the government offer employees, affected employees, so they would try to relocate them for one, or they would try to find them another source of employment with the government. And last but not least, they will offer them a severance package to leave. So those will be are the three options that the government have in place to help affected employees.
Now, when you think about, this merger and the people you are affiliated with, if your friends, loved ones that's involved with the Rock Island Arsenal, what kind of things are you hearing them say, or what did they have to say when they heard about this possible merge?
Whether they will have a job or not. That's the major concern. One of my friends who still works at the Arsenal, her daughter works for one of those commands, and her concerns was whether she would have a job or not. She's an engineer, and she's been affected. But however, she's still employed, so hopefully it won't affect her. But those are some major concerns with some of the friends I see at the Arsenal, whether it'll affect them or their family members.
Okay. Now, for you, you said you're retired now.
Yes.
And so when did you retire, and what option did you take to get to your retirement?
Well, I
In the midst
retired.
of all this.
I retired from the military in '06. I did 20 years, 6 months, and 23 days, who's counting, for the military. So I was a ammunition specialist. So I would fall under the JMC, Joint Munitions Command, being ammunition. I retired. My last day on the Arsenal was the 9th of May. But prior to that, I worked, like I was telling you earlier, I worked for the Army Contracting Command. So my job was to procure items for the Army Contracting Command through contracting methods.
Okay. Now that you're kind of transitioning to your retirement, what new paths are you currently taking that is bringing you the same joy that you had when you worked at the Arsenal?
Well, right now, we're standing in the Lincoln Center. I was one of the founding members of this center here. So now I'm able to come here at the center and help the executive director out and just do my part to make sure that the center succeeds. And whether that be, helping with the maintenance or leasing, which would be my primary responsibility, but just overall that I have time now to do that, to help the Lincoln Center succeed.
And what does your day-to-day pretty much look like?
Well, I kiss my wife off to work, so she says she's still employed. And I come here, talk with Tracy, then I have an office upstairs. I go upstairs and try to mingle with the tenants and just introduce myself and just let them know that, hey, I'm here to support them, and I'm here to support the success of our center here.
Why does the Lincoln Center bring you so much joy? What do you really enjoy about the work?
Well, I enjoy the Lincoln Center because we help the community. We are a community center, and that's why we started this, to help our community. And we have come a long way since we first started here, as you can see, as you're well aware. So my joy is seeing the center succeed and be in the position where it is right now versus where it was when we first took over. So I enjoy coming here. I enjoy just walking the halls and just seeing the overall success of this place, from when we first started.
Just in my life experience, having older family members, I've heard that, going into retirement can be kind of tough because you're so used to being on a routine and going to work and things. So, how is that adjustment for you? I know you have this joy now, but is it? Describe that for me.
I must be honest with you. That first week when I retired, it took some adjustment. It did, because I was pretty much lost. So I was at home. I did the grass thing, I did the house thing. And I found myself just, like, wow, what do I do now? So what I did, I came over to the Lincoln Center, found a spot. Tracy gave me a spot for an office. I literally set up my office, and that helped me transition. It really did. So now I missed the job that I did over at the Arsenal, but right now my focus here is at the Lincoln Center now, and that was a help. That helped me transition from retirement to now. I mean, I'm in a whole better place now. So I feel good about, my position. I feel good about what I did at the Arsenal because I like my job. I enjoyed my job. But right now I'm in phase 2. So.
And with that being said, with the help of Tracy, who is the executive director,
Yes.
What kind of plans do you all have in place here at the Lincoln Center, or future plans now that you all can kind of work together closely? Probably more than what you probably had the opportunity to do before.
Well, right now we are at capacity at the Lincoln Center, which was a great thing. So my job is to assist Tracy in the leasing of this center. New leases, right? My job is to maintain a good relationship with the current tenants that we have here, which I plan on doing. So any capacity that you need me to help, I'm here to help.
Okay. And then when this got started back in 2020, and as you being the original founder of it, this whole entire building, the different businesses you all have here, the different options you all have here, is that what you all expected to happen when you started it, or was it just like, we're going to go for it and whatever, we'll figure it out along the way?
Well, we had always wanted to have a community center to help the community, and when this building came available to us, we submitted a bid for it, and our bid was, accepted. And now, when we opened this building, there was no tenants at all. It was just the 6 of us sitting right here in this very spot, and we was like, okay, we said a prayer, and we prayed that God will lead us and guide us, and so far He has led and guided us to success. I mean, the Lincoln Center is a overall success. It's an overall success story from start to now, and I hope to be a part of that continuation to make sure that it is, remains successful.
Okay. And then, going back to the arsenal topic, according to the Rock Island County website, the arsenal is reported to bring in $1.2 billion annually, and then to local economy and employees over 6,000 people. So, based on your military experience, based on, your experience being at the arsenal, when the final decision is made, what kind of lasting effect do you feel it will have on the arsenal?
Well, working at the arsenal is a very unique experience. It is. Me personally, I hope the merger doesn't happen, because losing those amount of jobs would actually affect the community in a negative way. And we don't need that. I don't see a benefit in merging those two commands at all. What would be the benefit? Because they all fall under the same umbrella, which is the Army Materiel Command. So, and it's been functioning this way for a long time now. To me, if it's not broke, why fix it?
Okay. Well, thank you, Kevin, for joining me today and, telling me so many great things just about you and your military experience. I really appreciate that.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, of course.
As for me, I sat down with the mayor of Rock Island, Ashley Harris, and discussed the importance of representation in government and politics, the struggles he faced to get to his position, and how he's hoping to pave the way for future generations. Welcome, Mayor Ashley Harris. Thank you for joining me for this very important conversation surrounding Black joy as resistance. Appreciate you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Now, all across the country, people of color are thriving despite setbacks from the new presidential administration's policies. Tell me, first off, when the new administration took office and Kamala Harris accepted defeat, what were your initial thoughts regarding what the status of the country was going to be and to look like?
Well, during that time of, the campaign, even leading up to Election Day, America, we all were, seemed like we were all bracing for something, bracing for impact, if you will. And after, President Trump had won and Kamala Harris had declared defeat, people were just, let me say this, a lot of people that voted for the current administration, a lot of those people are in it for the entertainment. They want to see a movie play out, like, man, it can get, let's see how wild this can get, or, let's see, how far this can go. I'm not calling them like adrenaline junkies or anything, but that had a lot to do with it. We're in a state in the country to where people most times want to be entertained, more than anything else. So half of the country, like I said, was bracing for that impact. Like, whoa, this really could be bad. This really could, have negative implications on, a lot of things that we're currently doing and trying to do. But then not the complete other half, but a percentage of the other half, they were, waiting for that movie to play out, waiting to be, entertained like it was like a reality TV show. And that's one thing about, the president is, he is an entertainer, and that is, it's paid dividends for him, throughout his political career. So, that's pretty much was, that was my thought on things. And then, like I said, I was one of the people that were braced for impact. That was before, that was officially before, I became mayor. And even as a citizen, I'm like, okay, we're really going to have to, come together. We're really going to have to, in unconventional ways, even then, we had no idea about, the Doge or what really they meant by Project 2025 and the immigration and DEI and all those policies and not going to war with, but targeting certain states, certain, political sides of government. And it was just, like a wait and see game. But I pretty much knew, that we were bracing for, some type of impact, because the type of, personality he wants to do it big, and doing it big a lot of times isn't big for everybody. That's real small to other people. It's hurtful for other people. It's devastating for other people. So I was, just waiting to see how everything was going to form, and just being willing to adapt and try to thrive through, whatever, and still ultimately trying to bring, community and people together.
Absolutely. And you are currently doing that right now in your role as mayor. And for decades on end, Black people have had to overcome barriers to get to where they are. From a political standpoint, since the administration has taken office, we've seen Lisa Blunt Rochester and Angela Also Brooks, who made history in the 2024 elections by becoming the first two Black women to serve in the Senate simultaneously, that is. And then Blunt Rochester is the first Black woman senator to represent Delaware, and Also Brooks is the first Black senator of any gender from Maryland. And then we've also got Monroe Nichols, who became the first Black mayor of Tulsa, Oklahoma. In addition to this, we have seen Jasmine Crockett. She is a U.S. representative, of course, from Texas, representing the 30th congressional district. All of these people have taken a huge stand, of course, for human rights, but more so just basic rights, of course, right? But especially within the Black community. What does this show you in terms of where we are going with people of color entering the political space, if you will?
Well, we're moving right along, because we are a strong voice, a strong people, and on the grassroots level, even up to the corporate level, we have a presence there, and it's only right that we have representation there. When you look at financially, the Black dollar is a very, very a movement within its own. So like with the financing, you always have companies, corporations, administrations trying to cater to it, or trying to attract that in. And politically, that may look like votes. Financially, it may look like marketing, different techniques. But it's very important that we do continue to thrive and being put in those positions, just understanding what we're really there for. Those names that you just named, their success on getting there is only a small piece of the success. There's still work that needs to be done. There's still representation that needs to be had. there's still, a job that needs to be, accomplished, if you will. Um, I hope that kind of touches on, the question you asked me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did I answer your question?
Yeah, I'm gonna say it definitely. You mentioned like I just think like you said, it's just only representation needs to just continue. I
Yeah.
think it has to. We have so much more work to be done.
Sure.
To put it plainly.
Sure.
Now you're the only second person of color to have the role of mayor, in black mayor that is, in Rhode Island since 1949. What does that statistic mean to you?
Well, few different things. Bittersweet. Bitter that it's been a long time coming, and sweet that we as all people have arrived, have come to that possibility. For that possibility to even happen, that takes a lot of good people. That takes a lot of open-minded people, and that reaches past just the black community, black, white, all of our demographics and nationalities here in the city. That takes when people want results and change over anything superficial or over anything like on the surface level, like skin color. So when things of substance really need to be achieved, then people, I'm happy to say that, Rock Island, we are looking past skin color now. Like, hey, I don't care if you're black or white, what about these taxes? Or, what about our roads? And really then it's about the voice, your message, and what you plan to deliver and how you vision moving forward. And there's been times, I may not be, specifically talking about Rock Island, but, nationally, it didn't matter what one said or how they said it. It was about, just strictly, color. And the only time it did get down to the character of the individual was when, the field, the political field, the candidates were all of, let's just say, one color. But for Rock Island to have, with me being the second mayor in Rock Island, that's saying that people are not shallow by any means. So that's the sweet part in this. And like I said, the bitter was, the time it took to get here. Members in the black community feeling confident or qualified enough, or having the versatility of what it takes to even fathom trying to accomplish something like this.
Absolutely.
So those are my thoughts on it.
Very well said, for sure. Now, Black joy does not come without its struggles either,
Yeah.
of course.
Yeah.
What are the struggles you would say you faced, and how have you overcome them?
Well, I haven't overcome anything. We're still in the struggle. We're still in the fight, and that is not just me. And that's a lot bigger than just me being a black man. We're still in the fight. Like I said, we have been bracing for impact, even with this current administration. I cannot take any struggle as, my own, because it's a lot of, white people that are struggling. And I'm not even talking about financially. I'm just talking about, the way our current culture is here in America. So, just representing, all people, just trying to be in line with the principles of success. And that is, like I said, just looking out, trying to represent, all people, but specifically about the Black joy, that comes at a cost. It comes at a cost. And some of, the struggles that I still go through is being the face of so many, representing, so many, being the one basket that a lot of eggs are in, if that makes sense to you. And then, trying to not live up to that, but to produce for that, that it's no, it's only stress or pressure, when you think about it, just like being, a mountaintop wouldn't be a good analogy, but I'm going to use it because it shows height. So when you are up there, if you're not looking down, it's okay.
Yep.
You almost don't know where you are. But when you get to looking down, like, oh wow, that's when things can get to you a little bit.
Absolutely.
So, I don't look down until I'm not scared of heights anymore.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and go ahead.
No, I'm saying that's just a great segue into my next point, because it's like, not only are you, being that you are in the public eye, of course, but you're also in a position of power within Rock Island. And more than 7,000 Rock Island residents are people of color, Black in particular. Describe the immense pressure that is instilled upon you. You kind of just touched on it right there. Just what is the weight of that?
The weight, I'm going to call it the dance of that. There is a certain dance. I'm here, representing 7,000 Black people, as well as 36 plus thousand Rock Islanders, all in the same representation.
Yeah.
With that said, we can't, the dance part of it comes in is not looking at color, but just looking at vulnerability, our vulnerable population. That may be, certain areas of town. It may be, homeless people. It may be Black people, but just helping everyone in the right proportion to where, at the right ratios, to where we're all elevating without any side or without any person being neglected. And I come up with another like analogy. We want to be to the point to where we're running on all cylinders. Like a matrix.
Okay.
The bars go up and down.
Right.
We want to be able to run across the board, because it wouldn't serve me, it wouldn't serve Rock Island if I was only focused on just one cylinder. Just hey, I wasn't voted in just to take care of Black people, or just for one issue. I'm not here for that. It wouldn't be a long game for me, or for anybody, if they just stuck to just one cylinder. But like I said, that's the dance. High tides raising all the boats. But also realizing that our vulnerable community, in racial, they may need extra attention. But as far as my focus is broad. My focus isn't like pinpointed on one demographic or one area. We'll be just fine, because like I said, people are here for elevation and results. And if we're doing that collectively, then we're still doing a good job. But like I said, never forgetting that we do have vulnerable people in our community that need extra attention or extra support or extra. But extra doesn't mean all right here.
Right.
Just yeah.
Yeah, no, I get that. I think it's something you touched on, that like we're all going to be okay. I think for me, like, I just remember that the day after everything happened on election day, like it just felt, only way I can describe it is like a funeral. That's the only way it felt, like this just weary down feeling across everywhere to me.
Yeah.
It just felt, I don't know, can you describe the feeling? But I just remember talking to my mom, and she was checking in on me and my sister afterwards.
Yeah.
Because she's in college, I'm here.
Yeah.
And she was just like, so how are y'all feeling? Just tell me how you're feeling and whatnot. And she was just like, at the end of the day, we're all going to be okay.
Yeah, we
like,
are.
Everybody, despite the setbacks, despite the struggles, despite all of it,
we're
all going to be okay.
Well, at funerals, we're supposed to rejoice. We're supposed to, laugh and be happy at funerals, But, with the, traditional funeral feel, that's just symbolic of the perception of Rock Island. Because, there were a few articles that came out in the paper, because elections were throughout the Quad Cities. And, you had other cities, showing success, like, hey, it was a good night in here. It was a good night over here. But, it was an upset in Rock Island. It was, like upset, like disappointment. I never understood, what that was about. But like I said, I just contributed to that to, Rock Island's perception, being typically cast in a darker light than, our surrounding cities. And that was just a reflection of that. So I didn't take it to heart because, it's been like that. Even past the election, it's been like that with our, perceived crime rate or our perceived amenities in the town. It's always been cast in a light like that. And I'm happy to be a shining light even in the midst of that. I never did, comment on it being an upset or it, feeling like a funeral. I never did comment on that, just want to come in and understand that's where, we have been, that's where we were currently, and then just try to have continuous improvement, just try to build on that to where, it'll feel like a birthday.
Celebration.
A celebration.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a great segue into my next point because it's what is the importance to you when it comes to representation, when it comes to government and politics? What is the importance of that to you? Having representation, not just in Rock Island, but across the nation.
Well, it's absolutely critical because not just in Rock Island, but throughout the world,
Right.
throughout the world, citizens, residents, they typically don't trust the government. They don't trust government. So when you have someone in there, truly representing you more than just the same skin color you have, when you have somebody truly in there representing you, then it builds trust. It builds a positive rapport. Then communities and cities can move further along together without any resistance, without any roadblocks. And the trust is very important because, like I said, it goes past skin color. When you look at other parts of, the world, it will be all one nationality there. The president or the prime minister, he's the same nationality as everybody else there. So the representation goes past just skin color. You have to really represent the interest of the people. And that's where the trust is developed. We can't be shallow thinking that somebody being in there black or white or the same color as whatever you are is, trustworthy. That's earned. So it's very important, like I said, and even, Rock Island, I brought it up earlier that we're not shallow. We're really looking past skin color at issues, at where we want to go and how we want to get there, and the person that they feel is best suited to take them there.
Absolutely. Now, why or in what ways do you hope to pave the way for future generations through your role as mayor? What are you looking towards when it comes to the next generation of people?
Yeah, building a better quality of life. When we talk about, the younger generations, we want to have an opportunity for people to live out their glory days here. I know that, we need better services and amenities and things to do and more opportunity here. So that is, paving the way for generations to come. I brought this up before that, a lot of times young adults, they may go off for college. They may, move away to start careers, start a family. And the only thing that would, bring them back to Rock Island are, looking after their elderly parents or grandparents. And even with that, they would have to make some type of sacrifice, employment, financial, fun or nightlife or just having a good time. They would have to make some type of sacrifice. So paving the way for future generations is, if you want to be in this community, you shouldn't have to make any sacrifices for that. And that is my vision of paving the way for generations to come. Because ultimately, we want the city to be a city of choice, a destination city, to increase our population. So, we have some things to do to pave the way for future generations to want to call Rock Island home, and to have fun here, to live here, sleep here, and invest here.
Absolutely. Very well said, for sure. Now, what would you envision as it relates to Black joy and success not being seen as a threat, but rather a stance for change or something of that nature in a sense?
Well, that is, this is going to be hard for me to answer because, it may not be a way around some of it being perceived as a threat. Because when you look at, like for instance, you brought it up to me that I was the second Black mayor since 1849. Well, there's been a certain set of muscle memory set in, a certain set of familiarity set in,
Right.
So it may always be perceived as a threat, to certain people. Change is a threat. Change is good and bad. But it's always perceived as a threat. Even subconsciously, even to your body. Hey, if I get to stretching and I haven't stretched in 3 weeks, guess what? My back feels threatened.
Right.
Like, hey,
Really different.
yeah, my biceps feel threatened. So, in that sense, there's no way around the feeling of the threat, if you will. But like I said, it just takes a lot of, community, emotional maturity. And that's part of growth. That's part of the individual's growth and, growth as society.
Absolutely. I think that's definitely needed right now.
Yeah.
That emotional mature.
Absolutely.
For
Absolutely.
sure.
Absolutely.
Now, one thing you said back when you won was, quote, "I knew as soon as I won, this victory wasn't mine. I really haven't taken it as my own. I know this is a community thing. This is a Rock Island thing."
Yes.
Elaborate on just what you meant by that.
Well, I'm not here for myself. I'm not here to break any records. I'm not here for individual. I'm not here to play hero ball. I'm not here to save the world. Has nothing to do with me. A lot of people, could get in this position and think it was them. I'm not naive. My mom and grandma didn't raise no fool. You know what I mean? So, I realized what got me here, who got me here. And not being satisfied with just getting here. Just getting here, it looks on paper like a win, but we live in real life. We live in real life. We don't live, on paper. So that win, that's even superficial compared to the tangible wins that we need to be feeling here in the city.
Absolutely.
So it never belonged to me. It belonged to the people that voted for me. It belongs to the people that didn't vote for me. That victory, is still theirs. And for the people who didn't vote for me, as well as all people, I'm here to prove myself. I'm not ashamed to say that. I'm here, to prove myself. That I can be a leader that runs on all cylinders. That doesn't cater to any small group of people. I don't work for 5 or 6 people. I work for 36,000 plus.
Right.
So it is never my own when it belongs to the community like that.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Of course,
Yeah.
100%. And then my final question, which kind of like a 2-part really, what does Black joy mean to you? And then how would you say you execute it in your work life, personal life, on the job? What does Black joy look like in your day to day?
Well,
What does it mean to you?
Well, Black joy looks like I'm going to answer that in lines with just like like Rock Island and the West Beginning. The West Beginning like revitalization project.
Right.
Black joy looks like to where we could have an area that doesn't seem or feel or isn't portrayed as anything lesser or anything without, to level up in that sense, to where we're taking pride in where we live and pride in each other and seeing value in each other. That is Black joy to me. And for the most part, most part, that has not been achieved yet. So Black joy, I can see Black joy and in history books and certain movies. I can see Black joy, but taking that and trying to turn that into real life and things that we can actually see, that is a mission, all in its own. But I'm looking to see Black joy here in Rock Island, very soon. It comes through opportunity, it comes through education, it comes through pride. That's Black joy to me. Like I said, just all of those things, and leveling up with all of them, and feeling as if we are knowing that we are, just as good, just as valuable, and the ability to thrive, just like any other part of town or any other citizen, in the town.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Very well said. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it. We look forward to seeing how you execute Black joy and representation for all throughout your entire tenure. So appreciate it.
And, a few things that we, talked about throughout the interview. You are from Atlanta. So, everything in Atlanta is, Black, kind of, policeman, Black Mecca, so your perspective would be a whole lot different than mine, so like I said, I'm bringing up this example because, when you vote for a politician down there, it's more than just them being Black.
Right.
Like, hey, you know what I mean? Like, hey, everybody Black. You know what I mean? Hey, you got to be more than that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
absolutely.
And that is that is the way that Rock Island and the Quad Cities has grown. It takes more than just being white.
Yeah.
It takes more than just being Black.
What are you gonna do for me?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
So that is that's just represents the maturity, and I want to bring that up because I'm proud of Rock Island. Happy for us, and I'm looking forward to really having some wins, really increasing the quality of life here. And it's more than just skin color. It's more than just Black joy. It's joy, period. You know what I mean?
Period.
We're looking for joy
in
period.
in the dots.
So I just want to bring that up to you.
Perfect. So that's very well said. Joy, period.
Period.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. I
Thank you
appreciate
for
it.
having me. Thank you.
In the heart of downtown is where fashion meets culture. Tim Stinson spoke to the small Black-owned business Style District 220 about the challenges they overcame as a Black-owned business despite the changing retail landscape.
Thanks for being part of Real Conversations. So glad to have you guys here today and things. And, I can't wait for this conversation because I'm going to learn a lot today as well as our audience is going to learn a lot today. But Shamila, I want to start with you.
Okay.
Because you were telling me earlier how long this has started, that you got into this and things. Let's start from there. What gave you the thought? What drove you to start this venture?
We started back in 2006 out of my husband had just came home and he wanted to get into business. I wanted to get into business. I had taken a class over in Rock Island. They had a small business class. And my idea back then was just to open up something for kids' clothing. So we kind of went with that idea, but we went up to Chicago and We came back with like a couple dozen of screen tees. Back then, the guys wore the big graphic screen tees. We had like some gold teeth. The kids were into the snatch out
Right.
and golds.
Right.
And we had a guy who had some shoes. And we started selling out of the house. I would ride around in my van at the time. I think Devin was 11. He was in junior high.
And JB Young.
So we were riding around selling, and like within a week we were sold out. We was like, okay, we're on to something. We went back, did it again, went back, did it again, and the rest is history.
Okay. Now I know we're going to get into talking about your new location, but let's start with your first
The
brick
first
and mortar
location.
location of things. What, it was a little further from, not too far from downtown, close by downtown and things, but let's talk about, what kind of challenges, starting close off, what was it like starting up in that space and some of the challenges you might have faced?
Starting out, it was just people, it was word of mouth getting out that we were open.
Mm-hmm.
Back then we didn't have social media. We didn't have the marketing tools that you have now, with the internet. So it was just more so of going off of word of mouth, family and friends. And we were blessed to get traffic, to that location very easily.
Okay.
So we just, we saw the growth within the first year, and then the second year, and then it was like we learned about the trade shows out of town.
Different trade shows, okay.
And so then we were able to be able to provide more brands and new styles, and it just kind of took off from there.
So Devin, you walking into the space here, you see mom and dad, started things. When did you walk into this space and decide, hey, I kind of like what's going on here and things. Let me be a part of this, or did they pull you in and say this is what you're gonna be doing?
No, it wasn't even it wasn't a pull in. I actually, since JB, I had my friends coming home from school. They'd come to school with like 20, 30, $40 that their parents sent them with. Mm-hmm. And I would bring them to the house, and they would grab the clothes. Mm-hmm. They'd buy the clothes, they'd buy the grills. And then eventually, just over time, that was like my second home.
Okay.
I was going down to the store, helping out. That was like, outside of just going home and doing homework, I was going down there and participating in the family business. That was my everyday life. So then the moment that I thought, like, okay, this is what I'm going to do, is when I graduated high school. And I went to a trade show with my dad. I want to say it's my 18th birthday. That's right after high school. I graduated 2014. Yeah, in 2014 I was 17. So the trade show was in August. My birthday is in August. And I'm just seeing the different forward fashions. I seen a lot of young entrepreneurs. It was a lot of people out there younger than me. And they were, included in this space. And it was a space that I've been so familiar with back home. And so being around that just lit a fire in me, this is what I'm gonna do. Because at the time I was thinking about joining the Army right immediately after school, but that trip alone and just seeing how fashion was lighting a fire inside of me.
Right.
This is what I want to do.
All right.
Yeah.
How'd you feel about that when he was, you saw that drive, that love for this?
I was kind of nervous for him to just step into the world of business so young, but we were blessed to be able to kind of guide him and give him direction early on, because my husband had stepped away and he started selling cars, so he was no longer interested in fashion, and I had stepped away and started doing daycare, so we were gonna close, and he was like,
"That's not gonna happen." He wanted to keep going.
I want to keep going. Of course. Okay.
I like that. Let's talk about the move downtown. You're in a new location, and it's been close to a month, or is it close to a month since the move and things, which is great. What made you decide to bring Style District 220 to this location? And I mean, there's Quad City's huge. What made you move a little closer downtown, to downtown?
Honestly, I feel coming to the heart of downtown was our main objective. You know, we'll always ride downtown and see the foot traffic. And, you know, just the downtown experience alone, like we was already downtown about 10 blocks west of where we are now. But being over here, we're right in the faces of those, you know, the tourists that's coming in town. We're able to build stronger connections with individuals that may not have, you know, visited the store west of where we are now. So I feel like we're in reach of a lot more people.
That's true.
Being where we are.
I think with downtown, the way they're kind of building up, and like you were saying, the business world and just people coming in visiting, just to me, just a few blocks from where you're at has made, you know, will make a big difference. I mean, like I said, it's only been a month so far, and but I can see, you know, people finding you.
We've seen a lot of new faces just in the last 30 days, and I was just telling somebody, if we had 100 visitors so far, maybe 10% is from the old location. So we've been seeing a lot of new people this far.
That's great. That's great. This so I you know, talking to both of you too and stuff, I can see you. You know, to me, you're kind of tying yourself into the community as well. I mean, you know, black-owned business and black-owned businesses, sometimes it can be kind of tough to run and things. You know, making this move seems very positive, and sometimes this world that we're going through right now, what's happening with everything. So how do you guys see that you are, you know, probably giving back to the community, or tying in, being a black-owned business, some of the struggles that you're going through?
Main thing right now, although you know, everybody come in and they're like, oh, it looks really nice and you guys upgraded, we're still trying to keep the prices down.
Okay.
Especially today in this economy with everything that's going on, and, you know, people just not having that expendable cash like, you know, in past times. We try to keep, you know, costs down to help people still be able to look good and feel good, but at an affordable price.
Exactly.
That's good. That's good. I think that's, you know, with a lot of things, prices going up, it's good to see that you could maintain and, you know, don't have to raise the prices and things. I think that's great. You know, this month, as we are going into this segment, as we're talking about a lot of the segments, where, you know, June is our Black Joy, you know, as resistance, you know, month. That's our topic this month and things. How do you define Black joy? You know, in your mind, I'll get from both of you guys. How do you define Black joy?
Making a conscious effort to shine through, even through, you know, even when you're going through tough times, staying prayerful, just staying hopeful during these times, and enjoying life, you know, living life, and just staying grounded and surrounding yourself with the people who you love the most.
That's
And
important.
who love you. And I get joy from that.
All right. How about you, Devin?
I would say I get my joy from just being able to wake up on the daily. A lot of people aren't blessed to be able to get another day. You know, we go to bed at night and we just assume, you know, we're going to wake up the next day. But as long as I still have that breath in my body, I'm still able to keep going. And I have children that I'm raising, so it's a little bit different now. My why is to make sure that I'm around to be a better version of myself for them. So just being able to show up for myself on the daily and for my family, and just to be able to be present with myself.
I like your why. That's strong. A lot of people don't think about what's my why, you know. So I like to hear that. We talked a little bit about keeping backing up a little bit here. I wanted to touch on, because we've talked about keeping the prices, you know, at a reasonable, you know, cost investment for the customer coming in.
Right.
And talk to me a little bit about, you know, with the way the economy is nowadays, with the structure, you know, the challenges, economic challenges, political challenges that are happening and things. you know, how else are you guys continuing to push forward and to strive? Because you know, like I said, it's positive. A lot of people aren't moving to new locations. Right. A lot of people are closing up,
Right.
or whatever, or staying and hurting. You guys move to new locations. You're making things strive.
I think I'll take this one.
All right.
I think we faced a lot of hardships individually, as a family, just as a unit. So whenever we face adversity, my parents always taught me, like, you know, we got to keep pressing forward regardless of what it is that comes our way, whatever obstacles we, you know, as long as, like I said, as long as we have that breath in our body, we can continue to keep pressing forward. So regardless of what's happening politically to the economy, we still have to remain strong and stand our ground. You know, we are rooted and built the foundation to where it's solid. So as long as that foundation is solid, regardless of the storm, you stand solid. You know, some big trees don't get tore down in every storm. And I feel like as long as we continue to hold each other up and keep each other accountable, there's nothing that'll tear us down. So that's why we are able to continue to move forward regardless of what's going on.
All right. All right. I love to hear that. Love to hear that. What advice would both of you give other Black entrepreneurs looking to, you know, they're watching right now and they're thinking about making that move to, you know what, I do want to do this. I want to step out.
Start. You got to start where you are. You have to, I hear all the time, well, I'm just waiting for this. There is no perfect time. There is no right moment. You just have to start where you are.
Okay. All right. Anything else you want to add to that?
She hit it right on the head.
Yeah.
You gotta start where you are with what you have. And if you don't have the resources, get in contact with those that you know. But there are resources out there. We have the internet in our hand. There's plenty of them literally at the tip of our fingers. So just start where you are.
Okay. So just start, just move.
Just
Definitely.
move.
You figure the rest out later.
Yeah.
You'll figure
You'll
the rest
learn
out.
as you go along. Like I didn't go to college for business. Everything that we learned about sales, about profit and margin, we learned along the journey. So I just feel like certain things you can't learn in a textbook. You won't learn in a textbook. Sometimes you just need the experience. So you just have to get started.
Okay. All right. So what's next for Style District 220?
We're looking to expand eventually. We're hoping to bring more fashion forward events for the community, and also just keep giving back to the community that supports us.
And I'm sure the community can support you by coming through that front door and
Yes.
checking out all your fashion. And I think something too that we had talked about when we were talking earlier, sometimes it's even not about the product or what you have or even the look. You guys have a very beautiful store here. It's very nice, but it's the customer service.
Absolutely.
I mean, and you were talking about how to treat people and things, and totally agree with you on things, but that was very important to you, that you treat everybody the same.
You treat everybody with kindness. When you walk through those doors, you are welcome. You're going to feel welcome because your presence matters to us. You can go anywhere in the Quad Cities and you choose to come here. That means something to us, and we're grateful for the minute you walk in that door.
Okay. All right. People want to take a peek inside before they come here. Facebook, social, what?
We're on Facebook right now. We're Style District 220 on Facebook. We're working on our website. That will be www.styledistrict220.com.
Yeah.
And then also we'll have Instagram up and running soon, and it'll be Style District 220.
Okay.
So Style District 220, you can find us. And we're also on Google. You can find us on Google, Style District 220.
Google Maps, find us, Style District 220.
All right.
It'll pull you right to the front door.
Heart of downtown Davenport. You can't miss them and things. I appreciate you guys taking time, this morning before you start your day, have a conversation with us and things. So thanks, and wish you success. I'll be coming back in. I'm sure everybody else will, but thank you so much.
I appreciate your time.
Appreciate you
All right.
guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching this episode of Real Conversations, brought to you in partnership with TNBC at the Lincoln Center. Join us next month as we dive deep into the evolving voice of the Black church in the QCA.
Real Conversations in the QC is sponsored by Centra Credit Union.